Welcome to our educational happy hour, Nari Silicon Valley. Please have your favorite beverage. It is a happy hour, and we're going to take this hour to learn. Mark Wagner is today's speaker. He's going to be talking about mastering time in relationship to projects. And we'll have Mark present, and at the end, we'll have Q&A. So, Mark, thank you for being our speaker. Here we go.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, so the title of my presentation today is called Mastering Time, and it's taken from a presentation by a former remodeler named Mark Richardson. And Mark Richardson wrote a book called Control Your Day, and he started off owning a design build company, which he was the CEO of, and then he ended up becoming a business coach, and he's written a few books, as well as he speaks. He does speaking engagements. So today's presentation, what I'm going to mainly cover is first I'm going to just discuss time management, and why time is valuable. Then I'm going to go into sharing what Mark Richardson calls the time mastery process. And then after I review the time mastery process, I'm going to share what Mark Richardson calls the stress cloud, and it's a tool used to relieve stress and how to work on tasks that seem to be stressful but you don't address. And then after that, if there's any questions, we can discuss or answer any questions. So mastering time. So the first, so so what can time management do for you? So basically, what Mark goes through first is he discusses like advantages to managing your time and managing your day. And one thing is it reduces stress. We can accomplish more. Um, we can invest in time to improve. So that would be like you'll have more time to actually invest in yourself, like taking classes. Because the more you manage your time, you find out that you actually have more time than you think. Um, we can keep our promises. So what we say, we actually do because we're managing our time properly. Mark also explains how you can think more clearly because you have a plan, and you know what you're accomplishing for that day or even sometimes the week. And so you can make decisions better. And then also it's gives you a better chance of achieving medium and long-term goals if we have better time management. So here's some descriptions of top time wasters and ways in which we waste our time. So one is not planning our day, and that this isn't a to-do list. A lot of people, myself included, will do to-do lists, but doing a to-do list is different than actually planning your day. Planning your day is more taking your to-do list and applying it to a schedule, not writing things down. So a lot of times, people will say things to us or they'll schedule something with us and we won't write it down or we won't put it in our schedule. Um, and then talking more than listening. So it's better if we listen 20% of the time. Sorry, listen 80% of the time and talk 20% of the time. Simple tasks. This is a way we can waste time too by not doing the tasks that we need to get done, but uh, in some ways procrastinating and focusing on tasks that aren't as important as what we need to accomplish. Um, Another way that we can waste time is not leveraging our time. So that would be like, if I make a trip down to Palo Alto and to see a client and I need to pick up a ladder from another job in Palo Alto, it's being smart with your time and making sure that, if I was going to pick up the ladder from Palo Alto, I would do it at the same time while I have another meeting. So it's just being smart with your scheduling. And then emailing versus calling versus text versus face to face. being effective with your time, like which is the best approach, which is going to be the most efficient and the fastest way to get something done. Sometimes it's an email, sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's a text, and sometimes it's meeting in person. And then the last thing that Mark mentioned was sometimes we'll do a task too fast or we'll do a task too slow. So doing something too fast, it can not be efficient because you end up having to do it more than once. And then doing something too slow, um, it's just, if a task should take you an hour and it takes you 3 hours, it's most likely because you're actually not focusing on the task, but you're doing simple tasks or you're bothering yourself with other tasks or letting people interrupt your time. So, and then we ask this question here, what are your time wasters? So one thing that's good to do when it comes to time and valuing time is seeing like, time is money. And so kind of here's just a little slide that talks about how we could value time. So for instance, 1 hour is a 6 mile run. Maybe that's worth $100. 2 hours is watching a movie. Maybe that's, with your family. Maybe that's $200 with some popcorn. 3 hours is a dinner party. 4 hours is a drive to New York. If Mark Richardson's based in Washington, D.C., so that's why it says drive to New York. And then 8 hours is a fly to Europe, and that's worth $800. So it's just valuing your time. How much is your time worth? Um, Mark used an example of how he counted coffee, how long it took him to make coffee in the morning, and he measured it, and it took him about 3 minutes to make coffee. And when he tried to speed up the process of making coffee, and he got it down to a minute and a half. And so if you multiply that out by 365 days, that minute and a half per day that he saved, he actually ended up saving it's a little bit over 8 hours just in a small task. And so this slide here tells you about, you know, how valuable time can be. So if you save 10 minutes a day, multiply it out by a year, that's 3,650 minutes in a year. That equals 61 hours in a year. 30 minutes is 10,950 minutes in a year, 183 hours in a year. And then if you save yourself an hour a day, that's comes out to 365 hours in a year. And if you do the math, let me see how many hours that is. Let's say you have a 40-hour work week. Um, if you saved an hour a day for 365 days, 365 divided by 40, that's 9 weeks, 9 working weeks that you saved by working, either saving an hour or being more efficient in an hour. You just made up 9 weeks of work. Um, so that gives you a good picture of how valuable time is. It's 9 weeks is basically, 3 months, or sorry, 2.5 months. So, or 2 months in a week. So he also talked about being proactive versus reactive, and this kind of goes back to wasting time. A lot of our time, if we're not being proactive and we're being reactive, what ends up happening is like other people end up taking up our time by making phone calls to us, and it's stuff that can be addressed at a later time, or we just let ourselves get interrupted by things that aren't really necessary. And so what we want to tend to do is have about 20% of our time being reactive and 80% of our time being proactive. That's you can't really get away from not having reactive time because you are going to get phone calls from people and there are going to be fires that you have to put out and there are things that you have to react to. But in general, you want to try to be proactive. And one way to be proactive is, in the remodeling industry, you might have your clients. There's three types of people. You have your clients, your team, which are your coworkers, and your family. And so one way to be proactive with your clients is to contact them like early on in the week and initiate things. Like, so if a client, you know, requests something of you and you tell them that you're going to send them an email, and let's say you can't get that email out that day, just send them a text and say, hey, I wasn't able to get you the email today, but I'll get it to you tomorrow morning. And then you can put it in your schedule and get it to them. So it's just instead of people constantly coming to you and you reacting to them coming to them, it's you initiating the activity, not the clients. And same thing with your team. Your team could call you up, like someone from my team might call me up and say, hey, Mark, can you talk right now? I wanted to discuss something. And if I'm busy doing something, I could say, hey, is it something that's urgent or can I call you back like at 12 o'clock? So that's being like more proactive. Being reactive is just stopping what you're doing and working on it. And what Mark was saying is what will happen is about one third of the stuff that people call you about and interrupt you with is actually fires that you need to put out and address immediately. One third of it is something that you can reschedule it, and most people will say, "Oh yeah, give me a call back later this evening." And then the other third of it, once you sort of push it out, it kind of resolves itself. Like, and this happens, like someone will call me and they'll have a question. I'll say, "Hey, can I get back to you?" And then like later on, I get back to them and they say, "Oh, you know what? I figured it out. I gave so and so a call, and they let me know what needed to be done." So a lot of times there's something that might seem like an emergency, and it's actually the person who's calling you to request the information can actually find it out in other ways or resolve the problem by themselves in problem solving. So that's proactive versus reactive. This slide here kind of is an example of a salesperson that Mark was coaching, and he had him break down his hours, what he worked on for that entire week, or sorry, for a day. So like for sales appointment, oh no, this is a week. For sales appointment, he had 10 hours in the week. For marketing, he spent 6 hours, training 1 hour, project work 8 hours, meetings 5 hours, site visits 5 hours, and administrative miscellaneous 10 hours. And then this gives you like that's the first column is what he actually worked. The second column is the percentage of the week. And then the third column is ideally what he would want to do. So you can see how he says, okay, I want to have 2 more hours of sales appointments, um, more time in marketing, more time in training, same time in project work. Meetings go down an hour, site visits go down 2 hours, and then administrative goes down as well. So this is the percentage that ideally that this particular salesperson wanted. And this is a good way to analyze your time. And basically what Mark was using this as an example is that if you do the math and you can put 2 more hours into sales, the salesperson did the math and it came out to where he could actually increase how much money he made per year if he gave himself 2 more hours a week in sales appointments and 1 more hour in marketing. And the calculation, I mean, I don't know how true it is, but it came out to like a 25% increase in how much money he made per year because he spent that much more time, just 2 hours a week on sales and 1 extra hour in marketing. So this is a sort of when you are planning your day and planning out like what you're going to do for the day, like this is a slide that kind of lets you understand yourself and sort of what you're like during the day. So not everyone's the same. So for this might have been Mark Richardson, how he is, but early in the AM, like some people are reflective. Mid-morning, you might be creative. That might be sort of how you're what you're like during that time of day. Late morning, very productive. Midday, interactive. You want to talk to people. Afternoon, you're winding down. Then evening, you disconnect. Late evening, relax. These are the activities that you might do, during that time. Early morning, because he's reflective, deep planning. Mid morning, he'll be designing and thinking because he's creative. Um, so you go down this list and it basically tells you, okay, these are the things that like I'm probably best at during these times. And so when you plan your day out, you might want to plan, in this case, like midday, you might want to plan phone calls and meetings midday. Or if you're winding down, you might want to plan administrative or simple tasks. Um, in the afternoon. Um, Designing and thinking would be, those would be the activities for mid-morning because that's when this person is creative. And so you just want to be thinking about what you're like during certain times of day so that when you do plan your day, you put certain tasks that you're going to be the most efficient and most productive at during those times. So it sets you up for better chance to be successful. So the time mastery process, so this is basically a process that I'm going to walk you through, but it has various steps. And the first step is, and I'll just go through them really quick. The first step is setting up. The second step in, is the brain dump, which is a to-do list. The third step is timing out because after you do a brain dump, you're kind of tired. And so you take a little break, like a 5-minute break. Sorry, let me explain this a little bit better. So the setup is in the morning when you plan your day. You wake up in the morning, and let me go to the. You wake up in the morning and you sort of get a cup of coffee. You get your schedule out, and you you get like a notebook out, and you make and you sort of set up for planning your day out. So on that notebook, you would then write a to-do list, which is called a brain dump of all the things that you think that you're going to need to do that day. Then after you're done doing your to-do list, you take a time out and you just reflect for a little bit. And then the fourth step is attach proper time to activities. So after you do your to-do list, then you say like, okay, this task is going to take 15 minutes. This task is going to take 10 minutes. This task is going to take 3 minutes. This task will take 2 hours. So you sort of apply time to each task. And then you make like a timeline that you set up and which I'll go over how to set up the timeline. And then after you set up the timeline, um, then you analyze the timeline to make sure that you add up all the minutes to make sure that it makes sense. Because sometimes you might only have 10 or 12 hours of work during that day, and your to-do list might add up to be 15 hours or 16 hours. It's not really realistic. So you might want to take stuff out of your list. And so you kind of analyze your timeline. And then you put events in the blocks of times, which I'll go over as well. And then after that, after you block out times, then what you do is you incorporate the activities into the timeline. And then after you incorporate all the activities, then you're done planning essentially, and you start task one, which in this case he says launch A, which is task A. And then the 10th thing, what you do after you have your plan and you start working out your plan for the week, you basically monitor it. He says every day 60, 90 minutes. And I actually do this like I put it all on a schedule on Microsoft Outlook. So I'll put all my tasks into the schedule, and then like as I'm working, I'll see like if I'm behind my schedule, if I'm like on schedule. And sometimes like I'm ahead of my schedule, and then I'll start moving tasks up, or like I can add a task in. So anyway, you sort of want to monitor your schedule like throughout the day to just to see like where you're at. And this also, like, I would say, like, helps you, like, be more, like, focused on what you're doing. And it doesn't let people, like, bother your time. Because what you'll do is you'll get people that will come to you and say, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? And you're kind of like, oh, you know what? I got this other task I got to get done. Or, like, I'm behind. I don't have, like, I haven't finished this task yet. I'm 30 minutes behind. So you just tend to be, like, more, like, on top of things and not letting people bother you if you're sort of, like, set a plan out for the day and then also like are monitoring your plan because when someone tries to interrupt your plan, you're less likely to let them because you're sort of like focused on sticking to the plan. Um, this is kind of like how to be successful with the time mastery plan. Basically, when you do this in the morning and you plan out your day, you basically want to do it for about 30 days because that's how habits get formed. So Mark's saying like you don't want to just do this for 5 days and then give up. You want to like practice it for 30 days and it will start to become a habit. Um, the next thing he talks about when you do start to do this planning method is the first week will be really tough. And I've done it before and it is pretty tough. Um, and then also like follow the techniques. So follow this procedure like 100%. Uh, don't not follow the steps. Now, when I'm presenting it, I do it a little bit different than him just because I use Microsoft Office, but it's essentially all the same steps. I just record it differently in my schedule. Must invest a minimum of 30 minutes per day. So in the morning, when you do your planning your day, when you do your to-do list and then you apply it to an actual schedule, basically he puts down 30 minutes. It actually takes me about 60 minutes. Um, Sometimes less, but yeah, I'd say 30 to 60 minutes. And then include professional and personal activities. I actually don't include personal activities unless I have something like already planned. So like next week, I'm going to go meet a lawyer about something personal. And so I have that in my schedule. So like it's already like their plan. So when I plan for that particular day, it's already like in my schedule. And then he says, try to be disciplined, not obsessed. And I think sometimes if you're a planner, like it's easy to get obsessed. And sometimes you have to I think what he's saying is like people sometimes will call you, and sometimes you don't want to just like if you're so focused on the plan, you can actually like make mistakes by not addressing things that you need to address or not addressing something that's really important. So, or you can end up spending too much time planning where that like you end up spending 3 hours planning your day and not getting anything actually done. So you don't want to be obsessed, but you want to be disciplined. So step one, I kind of talked about this, but you want to be in a quiet place. It's in the morning. Start at least 60 minutes before your first scheduled activity. Use a spiral notebook. Um, have all your data, notes, tools, computer, phone in front of you. So you want to be prepared when you start planning. And so what I'll do is I have this notebook that's actually larger than a normal spiral notebook. So it's a large book that I use so that I can record every day on it. And then it says, and then yeah, I'll have my phone in front of me, which I have my Microsoft Outlook on my phone. Like I can have text messages. I can like look up things on my phone that I need to, that has certain dates and emails. So I'm just kind of like using my notes. Sometimes I have like job folders there just to make sure that I get all the dates and the times right. He says turn off your phone, but I actually use my phone for planning. But if you don't use your phone, turn it off. Now you are ready to plan. So yeah, so that's step one is basically like getting a nice uh, sort of setup, a quiet place where you can plan your day out. So this is basically how he does it. And I don't know how well you can see my arrow, but in this column here where it says balance, that's everything under balance is basically your to-do list. The where it says planning, this is your timeline. So you have like you can see it says 6:30, 7 o'clock, 8:30, 10 o'clock, 12:30, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. This is basically a schedule. Now on my Microsoft Outlook, it just goes, from 5 a.m. all the way to 6 p.m. and it's broken out into 30-minute intervals. So it's basically the same thing that you're seeing here. This is just sort of like a little table that he uses. Then on the left here, like you can see the date, or the day, which is Wednesday. So the left of the to-do list, you have your minutes. So you have 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. And each section, so like for instance, here it says meeting with Smith. That's a 90-minute meeting. Call John for Velux training. That's a 30-minute meeting or a 30-minute phone call. Miller contract review. That's 30 minutes. So all each item from his brain dump on your to-do list is basically given a time. And he even puts in here reactive time 120 minutes. So he accounts for like essentially 2 hours of miscellaneous reacting to to what people, bring his way. So then you can see between these, so he starts at 7 a.m. So 6:30 is his planning. So from 6:30 to 7 is the time that he allots the 30 minutes to plan. Then he breaks each time interval from 7 to 8:30, that's section A. From 8:30 to 10 is section B. Then from 10 to 12:30, he creates a section C. From 12:30 to 2, he creates section D. From 2 to 3, he creates section E. And then from 3 to 6 is section F. So after you give each each to-do item a time, then you break it off into sections, kind of like how we were saying earlier, how certain times a day you might be better at certain things. And so here, if you can look at all the A's, he has set up BM, JH, JA, MK. That looks like it's setting up some employees. So it's talking to people. Miller contract review, and then he has CK with JFK schedule. So he puts these three things in section A, and he adds those up. So that's 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and 20 minutes. So that comes out to 80 minutes, and that's in section A. And if you go from 7 a.m. to 8:30, that's 90 minutes. So you know that it fits. You know that those three items fit within that hour and a half. Now, the reason why that was a section from 7 to 8:30 is he had already blocked out from 8:30 to 10 because he had a meeting. So section B is a 90-minute meeting. So you can see B, this is a 90-minute meeting. And so from 8:30 to 10, that's a meeting that was already scheduled and it's blocked out as B. So section C is from 10 to 12:30, which is 2.5 hours. Then you look at everything in section C, a phone call with John, another phone call with the GM, lease trip agenda, another call with Jim, set up project manager for a kitchen meeting. So basically, it looks like what he has in C is phone calls, and that's a 20 minutes, 5 minutes, that's 25 minutes, 30 minutes, that's 55 minutes, another 30 minutes, that's an hour and 25 minutes. And he had what looks like 85 minutes. So he has an extra half hour. So you know that he's good there too, because he's got that extra 30 minutes within that time of which he can use the reactive time for. So then section D is from 12:30 to 2, and you go here for the things that he wants to put in that for that time slot. Basically, he has 20 minutes for lunch, and then a 60-minute meeting, a sales meeting. And then I don't see anything else in D. So basically, has an hour and 20 minutes in that section. And then for section E, it's from 2 to 3, and that looks like another meeting because it's blocked out in black. So if you go here, it's a BM 101. So it looks like a business coaching or something he's doing 101 for that hour. And then for F, which is 160 minutes, you just go over here and you see all these, call with Tom, call with TB sales, new training concept, set GR, lunch, MEB day. I'm sorry. This is F. MK card. So all those items in section F he puts here. So basically what you're doing is you're taking your to-do list, you're applying time to it, and then you're determining when you want to do those particular items. So the way I'll do it is like a lot of times like if I know that like I have a meeting later in the afternoon, like I'll set up phone calls for like while I'm driving to that meeting. So I'll schedule like 2 or 3 phone calls for while I'm in the car, and then when I'm driving back from that meeting, I'll schedule phone calls too. Um, Sometimes when I know like, okay, I'm going to be working in the office from 7 a.m. to 12 a.m., like I'll put my office tasks, like the emails that I have to send, I'll have those being done in the morning. And so you kind of want to be like wise with like where you decide to put your the items that you want to work on. Like for me, like after lunch, sometimes I get tired. And so like I'll do like kind of what he does. I'll do like simple tasks or more like administrative tasks like after the lunch time. So basically you can see on the right side, this is your brain dump. So first you do your brain dump, which is your to-do list. Then you attach time activities, which is step 2. Then you do your timeline, which in my case is an actual Outlook schedule. Then you block out events, which is sectioning them off into A, B, C, and D, D, E, and F. And then you basically incorporate your activities into your actual schedule. And then what you want to do is you want to analyze your brain dump. And I was kind of showing you how you analyze it is you look at the time allotted and then you see if when you add up the items that are in, for instance, section A, if it fits within that hour and a half, which 80 minutes does, then you know you're analyzing it to make sure that it's not a ridiculous schedule. And then you also want to like add up all the minutes, like after you put time to them all, you want to add up all the minutes and make sure that like, because if you had like something that added up to like 16 or 17 hours worth of work, it's kind of not realistic. Now, he says that he doesn't like doing that because you set yourself up for failure. But I actually do like to put a little bit more on my plate than I know I can accomplish. Because, like, if it turns out that I can accomplish it actually, or things go a little bit faster than I thought they would, then I can put what I had on that list. I can just, it's already there. So I don't have to like think up something to do. It's already been thought up in the morning. So I tend to actually like if I plan on working 10 hours in a day, sometimes I'll plan like 12 hours worth of work or 11 hours worth of work, knowing that there's a good chance that I'm not gonna like actually be successful in accomplishing it. But that's sort of my take on things. That's not the way he does it. Now, I do think it's kind of a little overwhelming if you're going to work 10 hours and you have like 16 or 18 hours worth of work in your plan. Then it's like you're going to fail, so why even plan for it? So it's got to be somewhat realistic. So these are monitoring tips, and monitoring is basically checking up on your schedule throughout the day. Now he puts it writing it down on a piece of paper, and I think to some extent that's kind of outdated. That's why I use Microsoft Outlook, or you can use some other scheduling or planning software that it is you use. But some people like putting it down on paper. Now I do my to-do list on paper. I just don't do my to-do. I don't put my actual schedule on paper. That's because I can see it on my email and on my phone, and so it makes more sense for me. But first, you want to monitor it like every 60 to 90 minutes. Then you want to carry the plan notebook with you. So you always want to carry your notebook with you. And I do this all the time. I always have my notebook with me, even though it's a to-do list. But what I'll do in my notebook is I actually do a brain dump on Sunday evening. So I'll like write down everything that needs to be done on all my projects. And this will normally take me about 2 hours. And so like what I first do is I'll eliminate all the things that I got done the week prior. And then I'll flip the page over and start a new week. And basically I write down all the projects we're working on, like current projects and future projects, as well as like potential leads. And I'll basically write down all the to-dos that I have to do. And then after I write down, do all that to-do list, I highlight the things that are really important in like a particular color. And then I'll highlight things in a different color of like people that I need to talk to, something I need to address in a particular meeting. And so that's what I do on Sunday evening. Now, what I'll do during the weekday is I'll take that overall list and I'll make smaller to-do lists. So I do a brain dump that's like this, like much, it takes much longer, like it just takes a lot of time to do this brain dump, but it actually doesn't take as long once you start doing it because you can copy and paste it over to the next week. So for the task that didn't get accomplished. But so that's why I'm always carrying my notebook, just because it's kind of basically telling me what I'm doing. Like, so a lot of people, sometimes people like I've heard people say like, oh, I don't have a good memory, like I forgot that. And a lot of times I believe the reason why people forget things is because they're not writing things down. And so like the more you write things down, one is like you're using your brain. And so your brain's now like processing by telling your hand what to do. So it's actually like ingraining it more in your head. And then also like, when you write stuff down, the reason why you make a list, even though, when you go to the grocery store, like you make a list because even though like you know how to make stuff, but like when you actually sit down and make the list, it's kind of makes it so that you don't have to think when you're there at the store. You just go back and look at your list. And so, and I've heard people say like, oh, that's an obvious thing. It's like, yeah, it's obvious, but it's going to be forgotten if you don't write it down. So it's really important to carry your notebook with you to write stuff down. Allow for a 10-minute halftime tweak to the plan. So this happens too for me. Like when I do my schedule, like in the morning, there's my plan will get tweaked. Like all something will take like 45, like it happened today. Like I got home like 30 minutes earlier than I thought I would. And so like I was able to get some emails done that I wasn't able to get to earlier this morning. And so like you can kind of tweak your plan. It's kind of cool too. Like at the end of the day, if you plan it properly, you can see. I mean, I color code my stuff too on my Microsoft Outlook, and so like you can see like everything you did and how packed you were at the end of the day. It feels good sometimes when you accomplish a lot. Then write daily notes in time workbook. This is actually something I don't practice, but I actually think it's a good idea is to write some notes down. I mean, it could be from like a conversation you had. Sometimes I'll write it down in my overall notebook, but I think I need to do more of this because you can start to add things on your to-do list for like your brain dump the next morning. When you actually make your to-do list for the next morning is like taking notes can be, when something comes up is important. Um, and then a deep dive review before the end of the day. Again, this is something like I think it can be we can get like too obsessive with it, but I think it's good to like go back over your schedule and say, okay, this is what I got done. What didn't you get done? What needs to get pushed on the next day? So it's kind of like just reviewing your schedule and seeing like, you know, thinking about the next day. Because when you go to do your brain dump the next day, like you're thinking about the day before, it's going to be a little bit easier. So common mistakes, and we've already talked about this a little bit, is one mistake a lot of people make is forcing 14 hours into a 10-hour day. And so like I do like believe that this is a mistake if you put too much time in a 10-hour day. But I prefer to actually like book a little bit more time than I know that I can do just to like force me to get done more. And I'll do that with people that I manage too, is I'll give them more work than I think that they can actually do. And because sometimes they surprise you and they get it done. So I'd rather give them more work than less work. Activities, brain dump is too general. So yeah, so too general. And I do this sometimes too, even when I do like, he's pretty much saying when you make your to-do list is too general. It needs to be specific. So like email uh, Joe about cabinet detail for this project. It needs to be like a detail. Email Anderson client about uh, a meeting next week. So you want to be like somewhat detailed into what it is you're doing. Um, so a mistake that I'll make is I'll say like send out requests for quotes. Well, it's like no, if I'm going to send because it could be for one job where it's probably better if I like say send out requests for quotes for like the tile subcontractor, the concrete subcontractor, the framer, and another subcontract. Like I need to be specific because if the more specific I am, the more I'm going to be able to put that down in my schedule and like actually like measure if I got it done or not. Um, doing only a 15-minute plan. So like what he's saying basically is only planning for 15 minutes. And like the people that he coaches, he was saying like he'll have them take a picture of their plan and send it to him. He was saying you can tell immediately how much time they spent on it. And so like you basically want to give yourself enough time to make a real plan. And so like I was saying, like when I make good plans, it tends to be like 45 minutes to an hour. And like basically like a lot of people say, "Oh, you're spending a lot of time planning," or like you're wasting your time, and that's not actually the case. Like you'll like what I find is like the more time I spend planning, the actually like I probably get done like 35 to 45% more work because I'm not like doing like tasks that don't need to be done and I'm not reacting as much. And so uh I kind of went on a little tangent, but yeah, but basically, yeah, you want to spend time planning. You don't want it to be, and it's not wasted time either. It will actually like you'll find you'll end up being a lot more efficient and getting a lot more done and having more free time. Not being in a quiet place to plan. So that's sort of like being like at the breakfast table talking to people or having the TV on. You're just not focused. And I found this to be the case too. So I'll just do it like I'll wake up and I'll actually like do it like actually in my bed. So I'll first like journal, and then after I'm done journaling, I'll do my to-do list, and then I'll make my schedule. And so I haven't even really gotten up yet when I'm doing mine. Getting creative in this process. I don't recall what he said, what that actually meant. Um, so I mean, I think being
Maybe,
creative.
maybe what he meant is like don't take shortcuts, trying to get around certain things.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah. And then monitoring every 69 minutes. Yeah, so oh, sorry, not monitoring. Yeah, and I would say that's pretty important too, because what ends up happening is like you end up t taking like 4 hours on a task. And normally, like the reason why you took that long is because you weren't monitoring. Whereas if you were monitoring, you probably would have taken like 2 hours, or if the task was supposed to be 2 hours. It's when we don't look back on our schedule, and I don't always do it 60 to 90 minutes, but like I do find when I actually monitor my schedule, what my plan was for the day, I find myself like sticking to it more. And not like going in my email and responding to emails that don't need to be responded right now, or like just doing things that like can be done, but they're not on your plan. Um, Giving up on the time system too soon. And so basically what he's saying is like, in order to form a habit, you need to be doing something for at least 30 days. And so like, you gotta put the effort into it. And it does take time, and it is annoying. Like when I do my planning, sometimes I don't do it on Sunday afternoons, like because I don't want to, but it's actual work, and you actually have to think. And like, I think we're inclined to not want to think. And so so basically like, but it's something like when you actually put the time into it, like after you're done, like it relieves stress, relieves a lot of stress actually, when you kind of like know what you have to get done, know what you're up against, know how much you're up against. Let's say you're not up against a lot. Well, maybe that means you need to start selling more, or you need to start making calls to potential clients. So it just kind of like gives you a gauge as to, what your week is going to end up looking like. It helps you plan like your personal life too. But yeah, don't give up. So anyway, that's basically scheduling out your week, or sorry, your day, and that's the mastery process. Now, this is just I'm going to go over this really fast, but this is just basically something that's kind of a completely separate. It's called a stress cloud process. This is completely separate from the time mastery process. This is now you can implement this into the time mastery process, which is that scheduling process for your day. But basically, what he's saying is like, if we have things in our life, like in our work, could be personal stuff too, but that's really stressing us out. Like one way to solve it is to actually put it down on paper. So like the first thing you do is you write a stick figure. This you just take a piece of paper out and you draw a stick figure, which is you, or in my case, it would be me. Then like the more stressful things you write down, you draw. If you have like three stressful things, if it's a really stressful thing, you draw a cloud, a big cloud. If it's a small stressful thing, you draw a small cloud. If it's a medium size, you draw a medium sized cloud. And then you write in that cloud what that stressful thing is. And he says write a one word in each thing. So like in this thing, he's stressed out about what he calls the Jones meeting, our trip preparation, our PDM talk. So those are the things he's stressed out. Then after you draw these clouds and you write in what's stressing you out. Then underneath each cloud, you write down 1 to 3 action items that will reduce the stress. Because what we find is like as we start working on the things that we're stressed out about, as the stress starts going down because we're starting to solve the problem of the stress. And so you write out the three things, and it could be more than three, but I think sometimes like, it might be 4 things or it might be 5 things. If you can break it down into more things, I don't think there's an issue with that. But then after you write these three things down, then what you want to do is these are now to-do lists in your brain dump for your week. So like on Monday morning when you go to do your brain dump, your to-do list, you can weave these things into your day. And some of them you might not want to do all of them in one day, or one thing might have to be done before the other. So basically like you start to weave these into your to-do list, and you weave them into your weekly schedule. So then after you bring them in your schedule, then essentially because then it's now put into your schedule, you start to actually tackle the issue. And then as you start to tackle the issue, your stress starts to go down because you're actually addressing the things that are stressing you out. So this is just like a method. And I've actually never used this method, but like it has given me a picture of like I've like mentally used it. Like I've thought of like, oh, this is really stressing me out. And I've like mentally thought like, oh, there's a cloud. It's a stress cloud. And then like I've mentally like thought of like, what do I need to get done to like alleviate that stress? And I start thinking about the things I need to get done. But I've never actually like done this practice, but I've like kind of done it in my head. Um, So here's some key takeaways from mastering time process is mastering time is a choice. You have to choose to do this. If you fail to plan, then plan to fail. That's a famous quote. It takes 30 days to form a habit, so it's not something that happens easily. You need to like continually do it for 30 days, then it becomes a habit. And I found this to be true too. Like there's times when I've been really, really good at this, and then there's times when I haven't been as good, and like I've been like more stressful, not as much on top of things. Um, and then and so there's times I'm like, oh, okay, I need to get back into this habit. And it does take time to get back into it. And that's one reason why I actually like to present this presentation. I think it'd be cool, Jennifer, if we presented it on in January, like when the year starts, because that's when people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna accomplish this, I'm gonna accomplish that." And it's just good to sort of like be in this like mode of like, manage your time right. But but yeah, it takes about 30 days. Then be proactive, not reactive. And so just have the mindset of like being proactive, like and this happens like this morning, that's what I did. Like there was a like I needed to email a client and I knew like if I let it go like another day or two, like there's a good chance a client's gonna be like, "Hey Mark, you said this." Like so what I did was I just texted them and I told them, I said, "Hey, I'm planning on doing this. Like, what days are you free?" So I was like being proactive. And like even last night I texted a client, was like, "Hey, can you send me this information?" And like when you're proactive, you're kind of like you're sort of engaging with the client. They tend to be happier too, instead of like them always saying, "Hey, when is this gonna happen? Or when are you gonna do this?" Or so it's just sort of being initiative and being on top of things instead of being behind. And then monitor, monitor, monitor. So you always want to be monitoring your schedule. No, the numbers don't lie. And so basically, like, when you look at your schedule and as you start to measure your time and measure how long t things take, you actually start to see, oh, I worked this many hours this week. Oh, this task takes me this long. So you start to understand too about how long something takes. Because sometimes I'll ask people like, hey, how long does it take you to frame that wall? And they can't tell me. And a lot of times I think the reason why some people aren't able to like tell you how long something takes is because they never actually plan. Everything's more like fly by night. And so like the more you plan and the more you record things, the more you start to understand how long something takes. And you'll know like when someone will ask you like, when can you have this to me by? Like you have a better idea when you can actually get it to them by and be more realistic because you sort of have a plan for your day and for your week. And success is a verb. So we can talk about this. I can present this and you can say, oh, yeah, like I'm going to go out and, take over the world. But you actually have to turn it into action. And so, we have to actually apply this process if you choose to like to apply a process like this. And so some people like one thing I would strongly recommend against is just having to-do lists. Like I think it's better to actually take your to-do list for the day and actually apply it into a schedule. And I think you'll find that you'll end up like accomplishing more because a to-do list doesn't really have it doesn't have any time allotted to it. Um, and so some people like, some people already have a system that works really well too. So I'm not saying go off of your system, maybe like apply some of these techniques to your system. And that's kind of what I did. Like I had a system, then I took this technique, sort of applied it. I applied the time, thought the time like super helped me out. Like, so when I make my to-do list, I always put like, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. And then I just like take that and I start putting it in my schedule. I just say this is a 15-minute task, this is a 30-minute task. So anyway, the key takeaways. And then Mark Richardson is his name. This is his email. This is his phone number. He's from the DC area. This was done a long time ago, and so I'm guessing this is still his email, but this might not be his phone number. And then these are books that he's written, like Fit to Grow. I actually have this book. Control Your Day. This is essentially what the presentation's been on, the 7 steps to mastering your time. Um, and then How Fit is Your Business? So he's a writer and he's written like a few books. So that's pretty much the end of the presentation. And I'm not sure if there's anybody here or not, or if it's all
Oh,
uh,
you got me, you got
AI
Patty and
folks.
Kurt. And you know what? We can open it up for Q&A. I was actually wondering, Mark, have you used AI like ChatGPT to help you with any of your project management and making things a little smoother, like repeatable processes or asking
No,
questions to
no.
streamline it?
I'm no, I'm interested. I just need to learn. I need to learn some like systems because like I've kind of messed with it a little bit. There's a part of me though, like I kind of like using my head. But yeah, because I think there's an aspect of like thinking through things and like,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's some stuff like, yeah, like for instance, my Sunday afternoon, it's like I don't want to spend 2 hours on my Sunday afternoon. But like it also like I did it this Sunday and like as I was doing it, like I was just like, oh dang, I got to get this done. This has to get done. That has to get done. Like I can't believe this hasn't been done yet. And like you start like seeing this is urgent. This is urgent. That's urgent. Like, but
Yeah.
no, it's something that I'm interested in though, because I know it could help. Who knows? Maybe it saves me an hour or two a week, you know?
Well, for example, I've had to build some standard operating procedures for our team. And I also did it for one of my clients. And so, like last weekend, when I had some time, I spent about 2 hours and I created 14 different SOPs that are OSHA compliant for safety in a fabrication plant. So it was like I was just whipping it out thanks to AI and able to send it to the client for review far faster than had I done it by hand. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and then similarly, over the week, I've had to do some things. Patty, I'm so excited that you and Kurt are here. Do you have any questions about time management or any of the stuff that Mark has talked about today? Oh, I think she's looking to unmute herself. There we go.
Did, yeah. Um, I've had my notebook process for my entire life,
Way to go, girl.
but
Oh yeah.
it's not on a calendar, but it does get prioritized. I highlight it and number it so that I know what is and when it needs to get done, but I do not put it on the
Yeah.
calendar.
Yeah. Well, we
So
all have our
Yeah, I found
methodology.
if you
yeah,
mark,
I found like when I put it on the calendar, it's just like you just start tracking it. Like there's an aspect where it like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's even like email someone back. You know what I mean? It's like, oh dang, that's on the calendar. I haven't done that yet. And you like, I don't know, it just sort of like,
I've tried using the because we use Google Calendar, the whole thing. And you've got the task program on the right. For a while, I was doing really good by using that task program. And
Mhm.
then I'm going to say shit hit the fan and you got busy again and you went back to old habits.
Mhm.
And so it's just constant. And then trying to keep up with the CRM. There are so many different processes that you've got to go back and check, and you did this one and you did that one. And it's like, I just get, to be honest, I've been at this for freaking ever. And I still get lost in the process because we're trying to implement, the CRM and following it and processes for the client and the sales process and the ordering process and this process and that process. And you follow it and it just becomes craziness. It's
Yeah.
like you're just going back to check the box because the box says you need to check it. And that's the part that drives me a little crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also too, like if you're having a lot of fires that you have to put out, the other stuff falls through. So, like on a side note, Patty, and when I last saw her, she's like, "We haven't heard from you about finishing up the website." So I emailed my partner, and of course he's been on vacation. He just got back today, so I'm sending him a message like, "Hey, when can we meet with Patty and Kurt?" So it's again, I know fires are burning, but like, it's tough because like we all have them. And here's another funny one. Like I'm so on top of my time management until I have to like make a phone call on my phone or I want to go to my calculator. Anytime I pick up my phone, I don't know about you guys, but I'll get like all these notifications and alerts, and that will distract me from the original thing that I picked up my phone for. Next thing I know, I spent 2 hours on TikTok doom scrolling. And then I forget that, oh, I was supposed to call that person. Like I
That's
get so visually distracted.
That's the one thing I don't think we use our cell phones here in the showroom as
That's
often
smart.
as we could, I guess. We do most everything via, if we're in the showroom it's on an analog phone and not on our cell phones. And it keeps us, and Mark, this, a lot of times I don't answer my cell phone because our head is down. And we're in the showroom and the phone's turned upside down because we're either with the client or trying to get tasks done. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Kurt, do you have any questions or comments about time management?
No, I think that
he
I
says my time management sucks.
no, that's not her time. Her time management is fine. It's just antiquated. I mean, in the end, we all do whatever the habits are that work for us. And I think the hardest thing about any of this is just taking whatever your normal habits are and adapting them to something else. It's kind of like I don't. Oh, it wasn't. I was talking to an interior designer, and she said that she can't believe how many times she reaches down and starts typing and note a task or whatever when all she has to do is hit the volume, the microphone button on her phone and talk into the phone, and it would do it for you. It's kind of like that. One of the things I was trying to teach Patty and Liesel to do was we're Google based, and because we use workspaces, we get the task thing. I heard Patty talking about it earlier, but there's a task app on the Android phone. You just push the button and say order right sink based door for Smith project, and boom, you're done. Now it shows up next to your calendar at your desk.
Nice.
That only works if you get yourself in the habit. It's kind of, I think, where we struggle is that we're on the fence between paper and electronic. And I mean, I'll go through and struggle with a document for an hour before I realize, oh crap, I should have GPT'd the stupid thing and I would have been done in 1 minute instead of the hour that I've already burned on it. Although I do understand Mark's concept of, wanting to exercise his brain and stuff, because that's that is who we are and what we are. And what happens when the whole world is all GPT and none of us are even thinking about the conversations we have? Then I guess that just the computers will talk to each other. And we don't even have to bother looking. We just go to the beach instead. Uh,
Yeah.
Let's hear it for going to the beach.
Sometimes it's yeah, sometimes too when I write it down, like here, I'll show you. This is this week's. Like this is I don't know if you can see it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's that's what I do on Sunday. Is that
Nice.
that list? Yeah, so but basically like when I write it down, like I'll start to see like, oh, like this needs to get done and like you can even send like text messages that are delayed. So sometimes I'll like start sending text messages for the next day, like scheduled for the next day, like to get to someone at like 7:30 or 8. But
okay. But Mark, have you ever taken a picture of all that writing that you did? Because I understand why you do it. You do it to exercise your brain, to get a certain thought train moving. It creates new thoughts, for yourself based on how you think, and that's a great thing. But somebody said
Yeah,
to
yeah.
take that one step further and photograph the stupid page and shove it in chat GPT and have it read it and turn it into text. Now if you want to create emails and stuff, you can just cut and paste or just grab it, drop it, and punch it into an email, hit schedule send, and boom, you're done. That way then you get the best of both worlds. You get electronic and you get written down. I don't know. I think
Yeah,
and the problem is that there's so many things to do and there's so many things we have to do that it's difficult to carve out the time to move things forward.
Yeah.
yeah.
Still, though, I really am glad that we did today's presentation because, again, I think it's just a reminder for all of us that there's always areas that we can improve upon. And sometimes we need to be told, oh, yeah, you're doing a good job of managing it. And here's just one way to be 1% better. Yeah. Way to go. I love
Cool.
it. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you for doing that.
Cool.
And again, Patty, Kurt, thank you for showing up. We love you. Appreciate you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks for
to
being
all
here,
the
guys.
people who have note takers that are here.
Do you know how to do that? How do
Well,
you?
essentially, you have a note taker that you paid for. Like I have read.ai that I really like because that way I can take those notes and put it into my CRM with my customer. But yeah, I mean, it's a paid service. I have tried them all. I've tried Fathom. I've tried
I see Joey has RevNote, whatever that is.
yeah, I have Fireflies. I call it, pardon my saying this, but I call it the herpes of note taking because I can't get rid of it. Um,
Uh,
but I really do like Read AI. I think it tends to capture the notes more clearly, for me at least. But anyway, Patty, my apologies. So again, I have an email to Jeff saying, "Hey, have you had a chance to talk to Kurt and Patty?" So we'll.
I don't see it actually. Oh yeah. Are we still on for Friday at 8:30?
Oh, hold on. Let me double check. Friday at 8:30.
Did you turn off the
Oh,
recording?
yes, we are. We are. Okay, never mind. Duh. Never mind. Thank you. Okay. You know what? And he actually replied, "We have a meeting scheduled Friday with them." Okay, good. Sorry. I'm going to be in Seattle, so I'm forgetting that I actually am scheduled to talk to you. Okay, perfect. All right, sounds good. We will talk to you on Friday at 8:30.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for the class.
Thank you, Mark. All
all
right,
right,
bye
guys.
everybody. Thanks for your
See
time.
you later.
Yeah, bye.